Hi. We need to get started because we don't know what the you know power company has in store. All right, three persons on. Yeah, my mother cooked. If you look on my status, you'll see it. All right. All right, we have four persons on. All right, we have five. All right, so we can start. I'm trying, Mr. Fair. I'm trying. Thank you. All right, guys, we're going to finish up this part. Um, right. So before it is that the power company decided that it was going to take our electricity, we were looking on the advantages and disadvantages for this question. Okay, I'm back. If you're hearing my fan, I apologize for the noise in advance. It's hot and I can't turn it off. All right, good. So let's look on it now. What are the advantages of observation? Let's use the chat. Advantages of observation. All right, so I'm seeing, all right, so Jose is saying that by observation, the analyst can see how the users operate, leading to better software development. Yes, that's a very good advantage. Anybody else? Anybody else? Anybody else? I don't understand why it is that you guys are not talking in the chat. Understand why it is that you guys. All right, so I accept Jose's response. So we have a large audience research that can be an advantage as well, and supervision is not necessary, right? So that's our next advantage. Moving on to a disadvantage. Disadvantage is that you may have a low response rate. So you could be there for 2, 3 hours and you are not seeing, or you're not getting to envision, you're not getting to basically observe that which would have assisted your system creation, right? It's very time consuming because you will have to write. So it's very time consuming. And as Jackson said, the observation method is not always precise. So you may go and observe and think that this is how a particular system, or this is how their system could work, is supposed to work. But on that particular day, um you could be observing the tardy employee, right? So it's not always going to yield the response that you want or may want. All right, let's look on. So we did observation, but we didn't do questionnaires, so we skipped over questionnaires. What would be the advantage of questionnaires? Advantage of using questionnaires? I think I gave the advantage for questionnaire instead of observation. Because questionnaire, you can basically administer to a large audience, right? So you have a larger set of persons that you can work with, multiple feedback, all right? So you get a better understanding of what the wider audience wants. That is good. No supervision is necessary for the questionnaire you give. And basically, after you give it, you're going to tell a time by which you will collect. Disadvantages now. There are times when you may get a low response rate, right? So in this case, what will happen is that you may distribute 50 questionnaires, but you only get back 20, or you only get back 10. So the response rate can be very low. All right. So instead of saying left out, you have questions that may be left unanswered. And these questions are pertinent questions that are necessary to the system development. I think Jackson and I are the only persons here. All right. So let's move on. All right, so this now is where I'm going to be required to do some drawing. So I'm going to zoom in so that we can read the question and then zoom back out. So remember to change the quality if it is that you are unable to, to see the image clearly. So just change the quality of the video. All right, good. So it says here now, a local bank is hosting an essay competition for secondary school students. The scenario below describes the essay submission system which will be used for the competition. A student can submit an essay. Let's start. So a student, let me use the highlighter instead. Why is it that the highlighter cannot be used? All right. All right. So a student, so that is important, a student can submit an essay. So a student can submit an essay by providing his or her name, the essay document, and the essay title to the system. The system accepts the data and stores the submission file. After the submission deadline, the complete list of essays is sent to the submission file to be processed. Right. That is, teachers are automatically sent essays for reviews. Teachers. Each teacher rates the quality of the essay assigned to him or her and returns the rated results to the system. When all essays have been reviewed, the results are processed and students are notified if their submissions have been selected for prize giving ceremony. So you are supposed to now create or draw a level 1 data flow diagram for the system as described. So we know that we're going to do a DFD. We're not doing a context level diagram, we're doing a DFD, which means that we're creating a more detailed concept. Right? So we know in terms of our shapes, my shape probably don't come out how it is that I want it to come out here. But we know that we have what we call entities. From this question, how many entities do we have? How many persons do we have interacting with the system? Anybody? How many persons do we have interacting with this system? Somebody know? Nobody. All right, let's move on. All right, so in this question, we are seeing where the two verbs here that exist would have been student and two verbs. The two nouns, right, would have been student and teacher. That's a full meme, you know. All right, so we're going to draw a rectangular box, one for student and one for teacher. All right, after it is that we have identified such, we now need to look on what processes need to take place, because what we're doing is a level 1. If we were doing a context level diagram, then we would only have one process. So let's look on the first part. It says a student can submit an essay, right, by providing his or her name, the essay document, and the essay file to the system. So we are going to create a process for that. So we know that for this one, our edges are going to be rounded to show that this is a process. And we're going to label our processes. All right, good. So right here, what we're going to look on now, or we're going to label this process. So this process now is going to, let's say, accept essay, or essay acceptance. That's what I'm going to use. Essay acceptance. All right. All right. So notice here, it says that a student submits the essay. So it means here now that I'm going to put student in one of the rectangular boxes here. Once it is that you are creating your drawing level 1, level 0, please ensure that you have your lines, and your lines must have arrows, right? So right here, this one is saying that a student right, a student can submit an essay, or a student is going to be the one that is submitting an essay to the system, right? So what details would be on here? So it says that when it is that the student is submitting the essay, they submit their name and so forth. You don't need to write all that details. We're just going to write submit on the line. Your lines must be labeled. You have to tell what is happening. Right. So right here, what it is saying, student submit essay. That's basically it for the first part there. All right, good. Then now it says the system accepts this data and stores it in a submission file. Now, what is our diagram for a file? We can draw something looking like this, two parallel lines. We put the name of the file inside, or we close off this end and we label it. This is 0 or 1, whatever you want to put there. And inside of the end part, you have to put the name of the folder. So this is submissions. Yes, that's what is the name of it. Right. So that's our submission file. So now we need to connect. So a student will submit their essay to this process. Then now the data is going to be stored in this file. right? And as I said before, you have to label your lines. I'm going to put essay info for the line here. All right. I would want it closer, but this thing looks like it have OCD tonight. All right, I'm going to leave it on the line. All right. So after it is stored, after the submission deadline, the complete list of essay is sent to the submission. No, hold on. Oh, it's sent to the submission file. So we did that part already. The teacher automatically, so the teacher is now going to be given the essays. So now we're going to incorporate a different process. Once it is that you get a level 1, right? A level 1 DFD, I'm going to ask that you try and incorporate at least 2 processes. Your diagram may not look like mine, but at the end of the day, because it is a level 1 and it is not a context level diagram, please, as best as possible, try to incorporate at least 2 processes so that you can get the marks. All right, so our second process here, and we're going to look on the sending of essays. Or we could have essay sending, whichever one. As I said before, yours don't have to look like mine. Because once I put it in this shape, it means that it is a process. Honestly, today, I don't know what is happening with this, And quite frankly, I am not in the mood to fight with it. All right, that will work. So let's look on what is going to happen now. The essays that are stored in this file needs to be submitted to the teachers. So we are going to draw a line from submission to essay sending. Remember now that we have rules, so a file will not have direct communication with an entity, right? It has to go through a process. Entity and entity don't communicate as well, must go through a process. Processes and processes can communicate. All right. So we are sending essay. And here we're going to, it says that it is going to submit a listing. So that's what I'm going to put on the line. So the essay list will be sent. Who is it being sent to? That is going to be sent to the teachers. So teachers will go into this box. All right. So now we need to have a line that is moving from this one. So we're going to have a line moving from this process to this entity right here. And it is basically going to have the same data essay listing. But in this case now, it is the selected essays because they're going to vet. So it is a selected essay that is going to be submitted to the teachers. Not all essays, just the selected ones. So I'm going to put that one right on the line there. All right. Let me try and zoom back in. I think this one was scanned poorly, so the image is not as clear. All right, so it says after the submission deadline, the complete list of essay is sent from the submission file. So we showed that part. So from the submission file, it is sent to the process right here. That's what we did. To be processed. That is, teachers are automatically sent essays for review. So right here now, that's what we did. We're sending the essays that we got from the submission file to the teachers. Each teacher rates the quality, where was that part now? Each teacher rates the quality of the essay assigned to him or her and returns the rated results to the system, right? Which means now that we need to create a different system, which is going to be the whole review and assignment of the grades for the essay. When all essays have been reviewed, the results are processed and students are notified if their submission have been selected for prize giving ceremony. All right, so we're going to implement now another process. Excuse the ugly drawing. So we have two right here. All right. Asu, answer the questions in the chat. All right. So I'll soon view those. All right. So look now. So we need a different process. This process you will have to name. So in this process, what we're going to do is that we need to produce results and basically notify students, or you can name it essay review. I'm going to name it essay review and grading. Review. All right. Let me minimize that to go in my little box. All right, good. So who is going to communicate with this now? So it says now that the teachers will submit their list. And then after it is that has been done, then the students will be notified. So teachers are going to mark and provide grading. So we're going to do this part. All right. So essay results. Essay results. That's what I'm going with for this one. Minimize it a little bit. All right. Essay results. Good. Then now it says that after all that, the students who have been selected, whose essay was selected for prize award, will be notified. So we are now going to draw a line from this one, and the line is supposed to be straight, but I'm using this and it is not. And we're going to label that line. And I'm going to have outcome as the action that is taking place or what is being done. I'm going to put outcome right here on the line. So that would have been your level 0 for your 12 marks. How it is that your 12 marks would be awarded? Data store, we have the data store. So that's 1 there. So you'd get 1 marks for that one. 3 processes. So that's the 3 marks. So 3 and 1, that's 4. Your data flow in terms of your lines. So we have 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 lines, right? So that is 6, 6 and 3, 9, 9 and 1, 10. and one each for the entities here. And that would give you your 12 marks. Any questions for this one? All right, so even though it's a level 1, level 1 DFD, once it is that you're going through with different processes, and you don't have to really and truly, because you don't get marks for it either way. But as it is, if it is you venture, or as you venture into computer science, you'll realize that if it is that you are creating a data flow diagram with multiple processes, you have to state which processes first, right? And normally you start at 0. If you start at 1, it's fine, but you start at 0. Same thing for if it is that I have had a different data store, then I would have to label them in terms of the numbers. The only thing you don't label would be your entities. Any questions? Justin, Tajmar, Brevet, Jackson. All right, so if there's no question or there are no questions, then it means that I can move on. Oh, oh, because it was your birthday. Ensure that you take my cake tomorrow. Tell your sister that I want cake. And hurry up and cut your cake, please. So let's publicly say belated happy birthday to Nintendo Gamer, aka Justin, aka. I'm not gonna say that part there, anyways. Hope you had a wonderful birthday, honey. Why the last connection? That is the one from the last process to students, Tajmar, Popsy Dapsy. That's the last connection you're talking about from the process where it is that we are marking and reviewing, essay review and grading, essay review, from essay review and grading. Because the question said it, once you get a question, just look on the who. Who are the persons interacting with the system? Those you put in your rectangle. Good. What actions need to be carried out, right? So in the first case, you saw where it is that the students would need to submit an essay. So you're going to need a process which is going to accept those essays. Then it is now that you had a next process which is supposed to accept the essays that is there and send them to teachers. Then it is that we had a next process which would have been the grading and review process. And it did say in the question that after it is that the teachers would have submitted their grades, the system is supposed to update the students to tell them if it is that their essay was worthy enough. So it's like I mark your paper, I need to tell you whether or not, whether you fail or you pass, and that is what it would be. Clear? Popsy Dapsy? No answer from Popsy Dopsy? All right, we're moving on. All right. So we are now at question 4, which would be the last question for section B. Describe 2 ways in which a case tool can be used in a software development process. Let's hear from you. Describe 2 ways in which a case tool can be used in a software development process. Helps to organize data. Yes. How many marks is this? It's 2. Justin, may I beg you please when you're going exam tomorrow, write more. So you would have to expound on this point because it's 4 marks. All right, so case tools are used in the requirement specification process. Increase analyst productivity. That is correct as well. Jackson, please ensure that you expound upon that as well. So case tools is used in the requirement specification process, right? And it assists with the development of certain diagrams, such as your data flow diagram and your entity relationship diagram, that will be somewhat of a model of how your system will operate. Well, Justin, in that case, what will happen is that you will be left guessing when the grades come out. Because markers are told not to try and get into the candidate's head. What you write on the paper is what you get the marks for. So you want to explain exactly what it is that you have there, because 6, you're not going to get free marks. That much I can tell you. Remember, I tell you, it's either you get, so like a 1 mark question is either you get the mark or you don't get the mark. There's no half, there's no in between. All right. So we have the fact that it is used to in the whole process of creating diagrams such as your data flow and entity relationship diagram, which will give you a diagram or a pictorial sense, imagery of how your system is going to function or how it should operate, the linkages between them. It is also used throughout the development process for user documentations. So manuals, how it is that you're going to create the system, how it is that users are supposed to use the system. Right? So we have manuals. We also have data dictionaries, which is a case tool, which is basically terminologies that are associated with the system that you should know or users should know once it is that they're using it. So if they come across and they say a particular word, this is what we mean by that word. So those would be the ways in which case tool can be used. So case tools, examples of case tools would be, as I said before, data dictionaries, your DFD, your ERD, your user manuals, in terms of the documentation, how to care for the system and how to use it. All right, state 2 disadvantages of using case tools in a project. One, the whole creation of case tools, whichever one it is that you utilize, can be very time consuming, right, for you to prepare. Especially when you have a complex system. When you have a complex system, your data flow diagram, your entity relationship diagram is going to be one that can be very, 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 very confusing, and as such, it's very time consuming to prepare. It is also a costly venture, because I can just come and say to Justin that, listen, I am going to need a DFD or ERD diagram, and then boom, Justin can create it. The the level of training that is necessary, one, that you would have to pay the individual for the time for them to go through the system, understand the system, and prepare this document. So it's not like a 2 hour, 3 hour thing. It's days, weeks, possibly months. And if once persons are charging for their time, then the cost factor will come into play. All right, so that's that part. So part B now says, briefly describe each of the following. What is white box text testing? Hear from you in the chat. What is white box testing? Anybody, somebody, nobody? Guys? All right. So we're going to move into that. Let's go back to fifth and the beginning part of sixth form. When you write a program, you're writing the program or you're creating a system to do a particular task. When you are testing the system, because these three that we're looking here, when you're testing the system, you're testing it at different intervals with different expectations. That is what it is. So for your white box testing, right? For this one, you know what the code is supposed to do. So you are going to use, or you're going to design, basically use still certain data based on what you know the system will do. So it's like your trace table. You're going to create a trace table for this particular system, knowing its functionality. right? Knowing that what the code is supposed to do. It is supposed to calculate sum. So if I enter three numbers, 2, 3, and 6, 2, 3, and 6, I'm supposed to get 11. You know what the system is supposed to do, and that is white box testing. So you're using data or you're testing the system knowing the functionality of the code. Good. For black box testing now, you don't know the functionalities of the code, right? So I am just randomly entering data. I am randomly entering data, not knowing the full capacity or what it is that the code is expected to do. And then from that, I'll be able to analyze and create my interpretation of it. So I run a particular code, I enter 2, 3, 5, 2, 3, and 6, right? And I get 11. So when I get 11 now, I can say, all right then, is sum this system is supposed to calculate, right? Or if it is that I get 1, then I will say no, this system is finding the difference, right? So you in your mind, when you're creating your test data, you don't know the the behavior, you don't know how it is that the code itself will respond to this particular set of data. And a test case is where it is that you're going to incorporate that of the white box and that of the black box. So one, you know the inputs that are required, right? You know the actions, the processing that will take place, and you know what is the expected output, right? So in essence now, test case is a combination of your white box and your black box testing. Are we clear? Are we clear? How is it? How would it be contradicting? The first one, so listen carefully now. The first one, you know, for the white box testing, you know the functionalities of the code, right? That is it. You just know the functionalities of the code. Um, and as such now, you're going to create, so you know the functionality of the code, but not the inputs. Good? You don't know the inputs. So the test data is going to be more, the test case is going to be more detailed. It's like an IPO chart where you're going to clearly state the inputs needed, the processing that will take place, and what is the desired output, how it is that the output is supposed to look. That is your test case, right? For the white box testing, you know how it is that the code is supposed to function, but not necessarily the input. So you know the processing, you don't know the inputs, right? You don't know the outputs. Good? You know what processing should take place. Then now for your black box testing, you know for the black box testing, you don't know the processing, and you're going to create the inputs, let it execute the processing, and then show you the desired output. Right? And then the test case, as I was saying now, would be a full or a better system where it is that you know input, you know what processing should take place, and you know what output should take place. Tell me if that is better for you. Ah, thank good. Justin, Jose, Brevet. I think Brevet is on the line. Is it better for you guys? You understand? Is Justin still cutting cake? All right. So I'm not hearing from anybody. I'm not hearing anybody else. Let's move on to the next part. All right. Let me fix this up. All right. Moving on up to the east side. All right. So we're going to do another drawing because we're at ERD. So it says, as a programmer, you have been asked to design a new online reservation management system for a hotel. The design requirements compiled so far are as follows. Each user should be able to make several reservations in the new system. Each reservation is associated with exactly one room, though a room may be associated with several reservations, as reservation dates will vary. Each room has an associated room type. Finally, a reservation is linked to exactly one payment. Draw an entity relationship diagram to illustrate how the given data could be modeled. Let's do this. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Too much. All right. All right, come right here. So looking on now. So the first part here, it says each user should be able to make reservations. So we're going to draw our rectangle. What is that? Yes, thank you. The system understands that I'm not able to draw properly. All right, so user, let's minimize this so that it fits in the box. So we have user and we have reservation. Reservation. All right, good. Ah, reservation it is. So look now, we know that we need to connect between the two. All right. So we need to show the type of relationship that exists. So we know we have one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-many relationships, right? So what do we use here? It says each user should be able to make several reservations in the system. Now, in this case, it didn't say a user, it says each user. So we are going to use them line here. All right. All right. All right. So we have a user can make many or a user can make one. So this is a each user should be able, right? So we have a one-to-many relationship. All right, we have a one-to-many relationship here with user and reservations. Right. So on the line itself, we can draw a diamond, right? Which is basically signifying what is happening between there, and a mark is awarded for that as well. So user makes reservation. All right, user makes reservation. All right, next part now it says each reservation is associated with exactly one room, right? So we need to draw a next rectangle here, and this one would be for the rooms. All right, so let us connect our two entities, right? So we have reservation and we have room. So it says each reservation, right? So we know that here a user can make many reservations, right? So at reservations here, we're going to put many, right? Because we're talking about different reservations. So each reservation is with exactly one room. So we can draw our one line or two line, whichever one. So it is a one to many or a many to one relationship, right? What are they doing here? And we're going to put associated because that is what is in the question. Associated. So many, one or many reservations is associated, are associated with one room or rooms. Should be room then. All right. Next part, it says though a room can be associated with several reservations. So that is why we have the many here. It says each room has an associated room type. So that now is a different set of data. Do you want ocean view? Do you want pool, swim out pool? What's this now? Room type. They have different types of room. All right, so let us connect our box and what would be the relationship between these two. So we have now where it says each room has an associate room type. So we know that it's one room type per room, right? But you may have many rooms that may fit in that category. So we have 3 ocean view, we have 2 rooms with a swim out pool, we have 2 honeymoon suite, etc., etc. Right? It says each room has an associated room type. So we have the many to one there. And we're going to put back the same associated right here. Right on this line. All right. The next part now says, finally, a reservation is linked to exactly one payment. So we're drawing now a rectangle, and this rectangle is for payment. All right. So now we need to have a link between reservation and payment. So it says a reservation. So we have one reservation is linked to exactly one payment. So we have a one-on-one relationship here, and we're labeling the line to say it says a reservation is linked. So I'm going to put the word linked right here. So make it smaller like the others. All right. And that would be your ERD diagram for your 13 marks. Any questions for this one? What does it mean above room? That means one. So you have the crow's feet. So this, oops, sorry. I don't know what it is that I did. All right, good. So you have the crow's feet. Sorry, you have the 2 parallel lines, which means one. You have the crow's feet, which means many, right? So it would look something like that. You have the crow's feet, which would mean many. And then the crow's feet with the line means one or more. All right, very good. Any other question, Jackson? Popsy Dapsy? Are we clear? All the persons on the live, we're clear? Are you clear, Jose? No, I get it. Oh, I think you were answering if there are any questions. Sorry, Jackson. Yeah, we'll run some sessions tomorrow morning, remember I tell you. So if tonight you can do mod 1 and mod 2, that would be good. And the beginning part of mod 3. Operating systems is a lot of notes. A lot of notes. Hey, Junebug. Wonder if the Junebug you mean what I want it to mean. Does it mean the person was born in June? All right, let's look on now section C. So we have 2 questions here. question 5 and 6 that we're going to do. So for 5, 5 says that differentiate between a batch processing system and a multitasking system. I'm not necessarily sure outside of the example that you would need to, I think you can use context clues, that's what I'm saying, to answer this question. So what is batch processing system? Yeah. And then you see, because of how the notes set up, like the module set up, you can basically uh no welcome. That's what I'm supposed to say. All right, batch processing, guys. No. You should be able to answer this, Jackson, because when you think about batch, as I say, using context clues here, batch processing system, multitasking system. Where is Justin? Where is all right, batch processing is where, let me add this to the screen. So batch processing is where the data is grouped based on similar processes they will use and inputted to the device at the same time. All right, accepted. Batch processing means all activities are done at the same time. Very good Nintendo gamer, except for it would need more, little bit more, little bit more, just for you to get your full 2 marks. All right, so we want to look on the fact that batch processing uses the whole sequential processing, right? Where it is that they're going to group, as Junebug said, data of similar that would require similar resources, and they are going to be completed at hi Rowan. They're going to be completed at a specific time. Like banking systems will use batch processing systems. So let's say, for instance, you have between 8 and 12 where persons would um so you have it between 8 and let's say 11:30 where persons will use the machine to deposit checks. Then now at 12, all the checks would be removed from the system and processed and updated or uploaded or whatever it may be, carried through the whole banking system. So that would be an example, as well as payroll. So persons who just didn't leave Ron alone. Persons who do payroll as well. So payroll is done normally around a specific time. So all you do, you upload the necessary information at that time, and then it takes care of all that needs to be done. All right. And multitasking now. Let's look on multitasking systems. It is in the name itself. Multitasking system. One. Shots fired. Justin, you see, if you answer Rowan and don't tell me what is multitasking system, I shall fight you tomorrow. You hear me on the live telling government people they're going to fight them. Lord of mercy. Come, guys, multitasking systems. So I don't hear from anybody. All right. So multitasking systems basically means that your 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 CPU. You know what's a very remove it. Your CPU can process or accomplish have you doing multitask at the same time. Right, that is it. So let us look like the YouTube app. Ah, right. That's correct, Junebug. Right. So let us look like on the YouTube app. The YouTube app, when once you're using it, once you come out of it, you it stops playing. So therefore, the YouTube app would be a single processing system, more like a app, but not necessarily a system. But the whole analogy applies, right? So for your multi tasking system, your CPU basically allows for different tasks to be done simultaneously at the same time. So you can be playing, you can have multiple windows open. You can be you can be browsing, you can be on the internet, which is playing a YouTube video while it is that you're typing up a Word document, while it is that you have many folders open. Like I am using the browser, I'm also using an application on my system to display this. So that would now make my system a multitasking system. If it only allows you to have one application open at the time, then it would not be multitasking. And that example that was given can be used as well for this part. All right, so that was 5A for 4 marks. Let us look on the rest of question 5. All right. So differentiate between each of the following pair of terms: polling and input output interrupts. Now I know you said that you guys have not studied this part as yet, sorry. So let us run through in terms of what is polling and what is input output interrupts. All right, so polling is basically where it is that it's a CPU process that enables, no, it's not enables, it is a CPU process that basically checks on the different devices that you have connected to it to see if it needs any resources. That is it. All right. So polling, this is where the CPU does regular checks, right, on the devices that are connected to it to ascertain if it is that additional resources are needed for it. And the input output interrupts now is basically where requests are made of the CPU. That's it. So if requests are being made of the CPU, it will be to accomplish a particular task. Buffering and spooling. Buffering, in this case, context clues would not be the most appropriate means of answering this question. You know that buffering would mean that it is, slowly taking whatever it may be, but buffering, let me put the words together. So buffering is the process of assigning or designing areas on your primary or secondary storage, which is RAM or your hard drive, to store entries made by or entries or requests made by your input or output devices. That is what buffering is. It can. Yes, it can be aligned with the whole buffering, because when it is that it is storing these requests, it is because it is basically in a queue to accomplish the task. So let's say, for instance, you are there clicking on your keyboard because on your mouse because you're not seeing something happening, and then you start typing on your keyboard, right? So what is going to happen in this case now is that the it is going to take an area from RAM or from your hard drive, and it is basically going to store those input or those output requests that is made by the devices. All right. Then spooling now. Spooling is placing the items in a buffer. It's the whole process. So it is whatever actions are executed or taken to add items to a buffer, so that when it is that you're ready to use it, it can be easily retrieved. Hope that makes sense. All right, C now says, briefly explain how an interrupt is handled by the processor. All right, so step one, you're going to save the status of the existing process. So what is its state, right? After it is that you would have saved the state of the existing process, then it is that you are going to process new information. These new information would now be loaded. It will get the attention by the CPU and be executed. After that is done and the new process is terminated, then whatever it is, the old process that was saved, then that would be executed now. So to make it more applicable, you sent a document to print, right? And you are also trying to open your browser. Now, the first process, no, let me not use the browser. Let us use printing. All right. So you sent a document from Microsoft Word to be printed. Then you sent a document from Microsoft Excel to be printed. The document that was sent from Microsoft Word, you're waiting on it to be printed. So basically, it is in an interrupt state, which means that at this time, it cannot be executed for whatever reason or for some reason or the other, right? So what is going to happen? Your operating system is going to look on its state, right? What state is it in? And it is going to save it, right? So you wanted this Word document to be printed. I am going to save it in my registers, right? And we know that registers are temporary storage units, right, in your CPU. So I'm going to store it in my register. The document that was sent from Microsoft Excel will now be pushed to the front, where it is that that document will now be printed. After that document is printed, what is going to happen, it is now going to say, all right, that one is now in a state, it's finished, it's executed, it is done with, it is out, right? Now we need to go back to the data from Microsoft Word that was not printed, and I'm going to now put it in queue so that it can be printed. Joshua, that will never happen. Exam not postponing. CSEC, kill them all and done. No, there will be no failing. I speak positivity over your life, and failing is not an option. All right, so that now is your interrupt process. I hope that the example given, was able to make the whole term understandable. All right, then it says now, the diagram below depicts an event that occur in multi-programming system. State the term used to describe the event that has occurred. All right, so we have resource 1, move to process E. All right. All right, so for I, this is a deadlock. This is a deadlock, which means that the processes are not being executed. So that one is a deadlock. For 2, it says outline the condition under which such an event would occur. So now we're explaining what would happen or what would cause a deadlock. You see, when it is that you have a particular process that requires a particular resource which is being held by another resource, then it will not get the attention and it will not be able to be executed. So in this case now, we have 2 resources. We have resource 1 and we have resource 2. We have 2 processes that need to be done, which would be process A and process B. So right here, what we are seeing is where process A requires resources from process B, right? No, so process A require resource 2. That is what I would say, which is also being held or being utilized by process B, right? Process B also requires resource 1, and resource 1 also requires process A. So basically, it is in an entanglement, right? It is a them people, the kind of vibes. So because there at no point in time resource 2 or resource 1 will become free, right, to carry out the actions from process A or process B, then it is that you will find that this will end up in a deadlock. All right, so 3 now says outline 2 ways in which the event depicted in the diagram could be resolved. So if I did say to you before that the resources are tied up, it would now mean that you would need to basically release the process that is postponing the particular action to be taken. Right? That's it. You need to free it up. 1, then you need to cancel one of the jobs. So I need to say at this point in time, I am going to, let me go back. So here, I am saying that one of it is you free up resource 1. If you free up resource 1, then one of the process will get done and move in for the other process to be done, right? The next way is to cancel one of the processes. So if I cancel process A, then process B would not be in a deadlock. Or if I cancel process B, process A would not be in a deadlock. All right, moving on. Let me arrange these pages. All right. For operating system, what you will find is that some of the terminologies are pretty much linked to terminologies that you would know in life. Let's hope Junebug. All right, so moving on to E. E says, describe each of the following scheduling algorithms. So we have shortest job first, and we have what we call a round robin. I mean, no son know a round robin be. Anybody who don't know what is a round robin, where are you from? We need to come start a round robin where it is that you are from. All right, so shortest job first. As the name suggests, right? You have a particular process which would require one resource. You have a next process which would require multiple resources. Then it goes to say that you are going to do the task with the shortest resource or requires less first and then move on to the others, right? So you're going to look for any task for this shortest job first, any task that requires the least amount of resources in terms of the resources to be executed. And then it would be followed by the second least until you reach the one that requires the most. That's the shortest job first. Round robin is where it is that each task is assigned a specific amount of time or the same amount of time. So if John comes, John going to get 2 minutes. If Joshua comes by, same 2 minutes for Joshua. Justin comes by, same 2 minutes for Justin. Everyone gets the same time. The operating system now is basically going to create a cycle. It's just like a round robin, nothing no different about it. So the operating system is going to now create a cycle for all the jobs. And if the job is not completed in that cycle, then it is going to be added to another cycle. So here it is that I'm giving everybody 2 minutes. And if after it is that Justin comes in, and I have a particular task that I am completing with Justin, then then if it cannot be completed in the time stipulated, then what it means is that we're going to do that which we can and move to a next round, a next cycle. Right, so it is going to continue going around until the task gets done. All right. Moving on to number 6. And this one, question 6. So question 5, more than likely, is going to be on operating system. Not more than likely. Question 5 will be on operating system. Question 6 will be on networking. All right. Define the term attenuation as it relates to computer network transmission media. What is attenuation? Looking on the particular wording, What context clues do you get from it? What does it remind you of? So let's say, for instance, what attenuation and transmission media. You have a modem in your house, and it is in your living room. When you're in the living room, the signal or the strength is very, very strong. As you move away from the modem or router, the attenuation reduces. Or not attenuation, the signal reduces, right? So if you're out to your gate, you're probably the signal is not as strong as you would want it to be. So attenuation now is the reduction of your signal strength, your Wi-Fi connectivity. Let's use that one. So your Wi-Fi is in your living room, you're over your neighbor house, the whole signal, the signal is not as strong. So that would be attenuation, where it is that the signal, where it is that the strength of the transmission media reduces. All right, so draw a diagram to depict a hybrid network topology. Now we know that a hybrid is basically two or more networks, type of network that are linked together. So a bus, a ring, a star, and you combine any two. So if you have a ring which with a star with a ring on it, then that is going to be a hybrid network. Ensure that when you're drawing your network, if that is what is asked, that you label to say that these are nodes, these are printers, these are whatever. So let me draw a hub. This is my hub right here. And I'm going to create a star network. Look like one spider, but oh well. All right. So I'm going to label this hub. Right. Then now I'm going to add nodes. These are my little computers or devices that I have on my network. Right. But for this one now, I'm going to add a node and I am going to create a ring. So this would now be a hybrid. So I can label it where it is that I'm going to have this as node. I can have this as probably a printer. All right. I can have this one as a server. And as I say, just label it. Right? So then now you would provide a detailed, it says write a brief description of what you have in your drawing. So 7 marks. So most of the marks is more than likely going to be on the diagram and the remaining. So let's put it 4-3 probably for the 4 for the diagram and 3 for the description. 3 or 2 possibly looking on this. All right. So I would now need to explain that in my diagram is depicting a star network with multiple nodes connected to a hub, right? With a ring network attached to it. And that's it. or where one node branches off to form a ring. And that would be it. Nothing more. So if you get something like this, you want to ensure that you name the networks that you have in your diagram. So I am clearly showing you a star, right, and a ring. I'm showing you a star and a bus. Whatever it may be, you are going to provide what the name of it is so that the additional marks can be awarded. All right. So where's the next part of this question? Is where did I put it? Oh, that's the next part. Oh Lord. All right. Let's move this down. And then let's move this one down. All right, so 6C says some mobile technology network technologies provide service through the embedded technology in the mobile device, while others provide service through removable SIM cards. Name and define each of these technologies. So, some mobile technologies use embedded technology in mobile device. So that means you can't remove the SIM card, like the older technology, the older types of phone, where it is that you wouldn't be able to remove the battery, add your SIM card, or insert your SIM card to the side, wherever that may be, right? It is where you get a phone. If you want to fix, you carry back to the provider. That is your embedded system. That uses CDMA, right? That's the embedded technology. Embedded technology is the older system, right? CDMA. CDMA stands for Code Division Multiple Access. And as it says in it, it is where the mobile device is embedded with the the necessary technology, which is provided through the the telecommunications provider. In our case, Digicel or Flow, right? So that's one. The other part now would be GSM, or Global System for Mobile Communication. So this one now is linked to removable SIM card. So when you're telling them about the technology, that's the part where it says name. So the first part is using CDMA, which is embedded in mobile devices. And the second part now of the scenario would be GSM, where it is that you are allowed to remove your SIM card. Then it says now that you need to define it. So as I said now, CDMA stands for Code Division Multiple Access. So you don't have the option of entering your SIM card. What it uses is radio signal communication. So it would use the towers in your area basically to bounce signals from each other so that you can get that which you're supposed to get to utilize the phone. Um, GSM stands for Global System for Mobile Communication. And basically, it is just the protocols that should be followed for digital cellular network. And the digital cellular network would be the advancement in phones in terms of what it is that telephones can now use, can now do. Sorry. All right, D. This is explain what is meant by HTTPS. So what does the abbreviation stand for? And that stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure, not service, secure. So HTTPS, Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure. So you know now that when you go onto the internet, you'll see this little padlock to the left of your where you would enter the URL. So that particular service, the one where it is that it is more secure, would be HTTP would be the regular one, the more secure one, which will give you certain features to say that this particular site is authentic. All right. You would now have to provide a particular scenario where it is that you would utilize this. So let's say, for instance, you have a particular site that requires persons to enter their personal information that can be used in identity theft. Then you would want to have um, a system or a structure through the internet protocol that will secure or offer security to persons. Let's say you're using online shopping. That would also be an example where a more secure version of the internet presents itself. All right. So we are now on the final furlong. We have E and then we have F and then the paper is finished. So it says expandability and interconnectivity are important considerations when designing computer networks. Differentiate between these terms using one example of each to support your answer. What is expandability? What is interconnectivity? And you're to provide example of each. So expand means to add, right? And we know that this question 6, as I said before, would be on networking. So expandability would be if it is, or if it is, the likelihood of your network being able to add additional capacity. Is it where it is that you'd be able to add additional devices to your network? Is it that you'd be able to add devices, nodes, routers, any one of those things? Would the system, not the system, the network that you have now be able to expand? So let's say, for instance, you have a network which has 50 persons on it. Can you now add additional persons to the network and not compromise the efficiency of the network? Right? So it's like you have your Wi-Fi at home more when it is that you have a lot of persons on it, you find that it start moving slowly, which means that it is not expandable, right? So your expandability, as I said before, is the ability for you to add additional nodes to your network without compromising its efficiency. One example you can just add where it is that you're trying to add a printer, probably it is that you're trying to add a next computer to your network, example, etc. All right, so interconnectivity now. Interconnectivity has to do with the ability to communicate here with a network over there, right? Can we still share information? So my network over my yard, my house, am I able to communicate to my neighbor on her network? Right? Am I able to share resources? So it is network A communicating with network B, interconnectivity. Example, Let's say, for instance, you have a particular intranet where it is that persons within the organization can access company information, right? So this particular network would be like a local area network. Is it that this particular network can be able to communicate or access the internet? Because the internet would be an example of a one, which is a wide area network. So that would be the interconnectivity. Now we're doing this paper. Doing another paper tomorrow. Is tomorrow afternoon you have the exam? I doubt that I'd be able to. I think there's another paper. sorry. Sorry. I think there's another paper on the channel. All right. What is meant by VoIP? VoIP stands for Voice over Internet Protocol. And it is a protocol that allows for voice communication to take place over the internet. Looking on the fact that it is 2 mark, it means that you would have to tell me what VoIP stands for. So you tell me what the VoIP stands for and then tell me what it does, right? So voice over internet protocol, right, is a protocol that allows for voice or telephone or anything like that communication over the internet. Explain why VoIP may be better than traditional phone service. I think anybody could answer this because you would have to you put on a data plan on your phone and you have your regular phone. If you have a data plan on your phone or you have Wi-Fi at home, then you're able to communicate with persons anywhere just the same. So it would be it is cost effective. Because if it is that you pay for the internet and then you have to add credit to your phone for you to make phone calls, then you would not you would be incurring additional costs, right? And that would be it. That's it for the paper. I will try to check in tomorrow morning to do a wrap session, but the wrap session would more than likely be on module 3. My students have requested that, even though we will be at school together. So if it is that I can create a live and still share with you all, I will do that part, providing that there's internet at school. As I said, the content for module 2 and module 3, those are heavy. There are a lot of terminologies for operating system that you would need to know. There are a lot of terminologies associated with the system development life cycle, the different processes, the different activities, the different phases that you would need to know, and terminologies associated with those. For module one in terms of the coding, that can be challenging, but nonetheless, yeah, I think most persons would be able to manage that part, as well as module. I think there are parts of the entire paper that persons will breeze through because common sense context clues will be able to assist you there, and there are other areas where it is that you would need to know the content. So with that said, happy studying. Please ensure that you get some rest, because if you burn the midnight oil, you stand to have a brain freeze in the exam and blank out. So hydrate yourself, get some rest, study, get up back. all of these things, putting some little structure in there, right? This year was a challenging year, and I know that it was a challenging year, and it was a challenging year for everybody. Nonetheless, we have to push through. All right. All right. So Mikhail says, Miss, can you use both and crowfoot? Both chin. What is a chin? I don't know what is a chin. Or it's just that I just have the, yes, you can. Where's the ERD diagram that we did now? We did a ERD. Yeah, we did one. Let me find it. Uh, oh yeah. Um. So yes, you should. Yes. Good night, everyone. Good night, Jackson. Thanks for joining. At different intervals, you may have to check in back on the content. That is why we did the live, so that you'll have access to this. As I said to you guys, pace yourselves. Please ensure that you don't burn yourself out. All right. Good night. Have a wonderful rest of night. And if I don't get to have the session tomorrow, all the best in the exams, and let me know what it was like. You're most welcome, everyone. Good night.